Oh, hi there. You may wonder why I'm sitting on the floor. Unfortunately, I have a really small bedroom and I just don't have room for a chair in here. So the other day I was at St. Vinny's and I found these. Oh wow, you can't really see them. Does that give you an idea of how big they are? They're like, oof, I just hit myself in the face. Ugh. I have not washed these since I got them at the thrift store, so that's kind of gross. My idea was that I could use these cushions to make kind of like a floor chair to lean up against my dresser here. Do you think I can just rip it off? I always feel like I'm breaking a law. Oof. That one came off properly. I found this really pretty fabric. I mean, it's a lot of fabric. It's like a really big... Wow, look at all this fabric. $13. And that was 25% off. Whatever. This is actually really not that comfortable. I wonder if I could like cut it in half so that it would only come halfway up and I could put the other half like right here. So I feel like that would be more comfortable. What is even inside this? Now I'm going to try to cut this in half. I don't know really how to do it, but I'll try. The pillows were 25 inches across, so the halfway point was 12.5 inches. I marked that all up and down the pillow, and then I took a scissors and I hacked away at it, layer by layer, inching closer to the center until finally, I'd cut all the way through. I moved up to the attic and worked in the attic for a while, and I was trying to cut this 26 by 26 inch square so that I'd have a 1/2 inch of seam allowance. I used these quilters cutting tools to try to make like a perfect square, but I was really struggling. And then I got the brilliant idea to fold it in half and use that to try to kind of like make it into a perfect square. And spoiler alert, that was a really bad idea. Basically, I was trying to cover 3 cushions, 1 large and 2 small, and each cushion needed 1 front piece, 2 back pieces, and 1 long, narrow piece to run around the edge. So that's 12 pieces total, and eventually I did get a lot better at making right angles and straight sides. So here are 4 pieces that I'm using to cover one of the small cushions. I went ahead and serged around each piece because this fabric frays pretty easily, and then I made each piece 1 inch longer and 1 inch wider than the cushion so that there's a 1/2 inch of seam allowance on each side. So we have this top piece, and then we have these 2 bottom pieces that overlap so I can use the opening to pull the cover onto the cushion, and finally there's this long piece that goes all the way around the edge. The first step was to pin this long strip to the top piece, right sides together. The corner is the trickiest part, so I used a pencil to mark out a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch square at the corner of the top piece, and then I made this little corresponding snip in the strip underneath so that it could bend around the corner. Once the strip was pinned in place and I knew that everything fit together correctly, I sewed the ends of the strip together, leaving a 1/2 inch gap at each end so that I could bend it around that last corner. So then I sewed a 1/2 inch seam all the way around, and when I would get to the corners, I would just stick the needle into the fabric, lift up the presser foot, twist the fabric around, arrange everything correctly, put the presser foot down, and continue going on. After you've finished sewing the strip to the front piece, it's time to move on to the back pieces. Here you can see that I hemmed the long side of one of these back pieces, and then I pinned these 2 back pieces together so that the width was exactly 13.5 inches long. And then I pinned the back pieces to the other side of that long edge strip, again snipping the edge strip to fit around the corners. Finally, I sewed it all in place exactly like I'd sewed the front piece in place. But alas and alack, when I turned my newly created cushion cover right side out, I saw my fatal mistake. I'd overlapped the back panels wrong, so the neatly hemmed side was hidden and the ugly, non-hemmed side was showing. That's right, it was seam ripping time. Thankfully it wasn't that bad. I just had to rip out the parts that overlapped and then re-overlap them. Is that a word? Whatever. This magical stuff is called Fray Check. Okay, this warning amuses me. If someone actually squirted this in their eyes, they must honestly have had COVID or something, because This smells like nail polish. It does not smell remotely like anything you would ever want to put in your eyes. Actually, you could probably use nail polish instead of Fray Check if you didn't happen to have Fray Check on hand. But anyway, the point is I just put a little bit of this Fray Check on the snipped corners so that they wouldn't fray or tear or otherwise deteriorate. Then I just ironed all the inside seams, and with that, my small cushion cover was finished, and it was time to move on and perform those exact same steps for the other 2 cushion covers. When I started working on the big cushion, I quickly realized that this front piece was not a perfect square. It had been the first piece I cut out, and I'd kind of failed at it, so I really had to work at squaring up the corners and straightening the edges, and that meant I was slicing it down in size slightly. So by the end, I only had a 1/4 inch of seam allowance, not a 1/2 inch, but I solved that problem by sewing it like this. I don't know how to describe what I did actually. I'm just hoping you can look at this bit of footage and get the gist. Alright, are you ready to be transformed, Mr. Cushion? Let's go for it. I don't know what this thing is called, I don't know where you get one, but it's very handy for corners. So you just stick it inside and then just poke it in the corner so that the corner comes out looking nice and crispy. And put my new one on, and it that is the iron. I'm actually gonna need to definitely iron these seams. What I'm gonna try to do is put it on the cushion and then iron the seams on, like while they're on the cushion. I don't know if that's a good idea or if it makes sense. I've never done that before, but I thought I would try it. Ugh, good riddance to bad rubbish. Ha! Hey, hey, hey. There it goes, looking fine and snazzy. Alright. Will this work? I'm just ironing the seams. Don't get near the iron, it will hurt you. Alright. Here is what the cushion now looks like. It would actually be best if there was something to secure it here. Let me get some safety pins. There we go. Okay, let's put this thing together. And then little cushion. This is cozy. This is exactly what I wanted. That's the end of this video.